Hello everyone, good evening. I'm sharing my screen. Let's pick it up from where we have left off in our previous session, guys. So we spoke about what exactly ERP cloud is, sorry, what exactly ERP system is, and we did talk about what exactly Oracle Fusion application, Oracle Fusion ERP cloud is all about. We discuss architecture, and we discuss architecture in quite detail, and we also focused on two major components that you will be working on as a Fusion technical consultant. So we discussed the inbound integrations that you would be building, basically the data conversions or the data loading part. And we also spoke about the outbound integrations as well in detail yesterday. Remember guys, building inbound and outbound integrations is the major activity that you would be doing as a Fusion technical consultant. And you would spend almost 70% of your time on those two topics alone. And apart from these, you would also be working on few more technical skills. Well, the third major component that you will be working on is building the required reports. As a technical consultant, you would be responsible for building reports. And when it comes to reporting options in cloud, you can break it down into two buckets. Is it reporting on transactional data or is it reporting on balances? And if it is reporting on transactional data, you have two options again. You have a BA publisher reports and you have OTBA reports. Now, when do we use BA publisher report? We use BA publisher report in two scenarios, guys. When we want to deal with high volume of data, so remember I mentioned yesterday that when you build outbound integrations, if you have to extract the data in bulk from Fusion Cloud application and if you have to send it to downstream systems, if you have to do a bulk data volume extraction from Fusion Cloud, you would be using BIP report for it. So BA Publisher report will serve two purposes in Fusion Cloud. It would act as a reporting layer, and it would also help us to do a bulk extraction of data from Fusion Cloud, right? So that's what you see here. So BIP we normally use whenever we have to deal with high data volume transactions, and whenever you have to report them, we use BIP reports when you have to deal with high data volume in the report. And also another important point is sometimes you might have to print, sometimes you might need to create a report in a specific format, typical PDF attachments. And let me show you one such example. Let me show you one such example so that you understand how it looks like. So sometimes you might be, not sometimes in every Fusion Cloud project, if a client is implementing financials or HCM, you would usually have requirements to build reports to print AR invoices. So you might build a PIP report to print AR invoice and send it across to a customer. So normally when you go to a retail store or when you make a payment in any online portal, you immediately get an invoice, right? It's basically called as a customer invoice. So if you have to build reports like this, wherein you need to have a detailed PDF print with multiple sections, you want to print the transaction header, lines, customer details. So whenever you have such requirements to build a report that would generate output, which would look something like this, to print AR invoices or purchase orders, etc. In such cases, we use BIP. So when you have to deal with high data volume, or you want to print, or you want to build a report which would generate a detailed PDF attachments like this. But if you want to do some ad hoc reporting, if you want to do some ad hoc reporting, or if you want to generate reports which would display the output in a graphical or a chart formats, in such cases, we use OTBI. It stands for Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence Layer. OTBI can only deal with a very less data volume, and OTBI is typically used when you want to print the output in a flexible manner or in a graphical or a chart options. Okay, so these are the two options that we have to report on a transactional data in Fusion Cloud. And BIP is used for high data volume and specific formats, and OTBI is used for graphical representation of data. And if you have to report on GL balances, this is the second half. Now, if you have to report on GL balances, building a BIP report would be very, very tedious task. And Oracle has given two reporting options to report on balances for it. Oracle has given two out-of-the-box reporting options to report on GL balances. What are they? You can build FRS reports, and you can also build SmartView reports. And where do you see these reports in the application? If you log into Fusion Cloud application. So these reports, right, the FRS report and SmartView report, they would help you to report on GL balances. And these options are typically used to build a trial balance report, cash flow statement. So all the statements that companies usually need to do a year-end reporting or quarterly reporting, they are usually created using FRS option, guys. And let me show you how this is going to look like. So if I log into the application as finance implementation user, you can just go into FRS work area. Where do you see FRS, guys? If you go into others, let me just quickly show you how it looks like. You have a financial reporting center. And this BIP and OTBI reports, where do you create these two from, guys? You would be creating these two from business intelligence layer that we have seen yesterday. I'll take you to that place again when we do those technical topics. But you would be doing these two from BI layer. FRS, you will be doing it from financial reporting center. So if you see here, you have balance sheet, income statements, etc. And how do you run them? You just go ahead and click on run. It would ask you to pass in the inputs, and once you pass in the inputs, output would be generated immediately. And in that output, what do you see, guys? You would be able to see the balance sheet of the companies of that particular client. Now you see here, you see that it has generated a balance sheet report. So what do we see here in a balance sheet? You have the assets, you have liabilities, and you have stockholders' equity. So where are these balances pulled from? These balances are pulled from something called as S-Base Cube. S-Base Cube. So in a Fusion Cloud application, there will be something called as S-Base Cube attached to GL module. And whenever you post a journal in a GL, the balances get updated in S-Base Cube. It's a multi-dimensional reporting cube that is available in cloud, and these balances are pulled from them. So when we do the FRS topic, we would be covering, or we would be building a complex FRS reports, which look something like this. And yes, with FRS, you can build financial life statements like balance sheet, income statement, and so on. And you also have an Excel plugin given by Oracle. You see SmartView here. This is nothing but an Excel plugin. So once you install this plugin in Microsoft Excel, you can connect to with the help of that SmartView plugin, you can connect to S-Base Cube in Fusion Cloud application. And within the Excel sheet itself, you can pull the data or pull the balances into Excel sheet, and you can do various reporting options there. Within MS Office itself, you can display that information in graphs and charts. So SmartView reports is basically used to do ad hoc reports, guys. If any functional consultant or client super users want to do some analysis, but they don't want to publish that report as a full-fledged report, that's when they normally build it as a SmartView report for doing that ad hoc analysis. But if it is a full-fledged or a polished report that needs to be created, used later on as well, to do a live reporting, that's when we normally go for FRS. So as a technical consultant, you will be building all these 4 types of reports in real time. And yes, as part of the course, we'll be covering each one of them. And apart from building a reports, so three components we have seen: inbound integrations, data loading, outbound integrations, data extraction, and we spoke about the reporting options. These are the 3 major components that we have. And apart from these options, apart from these components, you would also be working on extending and customizing a Fusion Cloud application. You see, when I log into Fusion Cloud, when I log into Fusion Cloud, this is how the application is looking like. This is how the application is looking like. But not, but clients would definitely want you to change the look and feel. Of course, every client would want to see their logo there. If I implement Fusion Cloud for gigs, I of course want to see my logo in there, isn't it? Right. So there are a few UI related changes that you definitely get from every client, like changing the logo, changing the background, changing the theme. So you need to make those or customize Fusion Cloud application as well. Tailoring of user interface, changing the look and feel, page layouts, changing the way a font is getting printed, changing the color combinations, everything comes in here. And also within the pages, say for example, when you go to specific pages, uh, within the pages also, you might want to, or a client might want you to make some changes in it. So, say client might say, Prasad, make a specific field mandatory or hide a field or change the field label, make them read only. So tailoring of user interface, changing the way application look and feel is, and changing the fields that you have within the pages. And also sometimes you might have to add additional fields on the pages that are already given by Oracle. And how do you add custom fields to the pages that are already given by Oracle? That is called as flex fields. And if you're coming in with EBS background, you might have heard about DFF and KFF. But there is also a third type of flex field called EFF in Fusion Cloud. Yes, in one dedicated session, we'll talk about what these flex fields are. Not one session. In fact, it would take two sessions for us to understand what are these flex fields and how do they work. And we would also be working on the OTBA reports as well here. So we can also build OTBA reports and we can plug them into the pages as well if required. So yes, you would be working on extending and customizing the Fusion application screens, tailoring a user interface, modifying the existing fields and adding the custom fields. And how do we do all of this? We do all of this using a concept called sandbox. And in one of the module, we'll be covering that in detail. And this is probably the most important part, apart from the inbound and outbound integrations. It's security setup. See, whenever a user logs in, say for example, I logged in as a finance implementation user, and the moment I log in, what do I see here, guys? I see that I get access to a lot of groups or modules. And when I go to individual modules, I can again see a lot of pages within them. So these are called as groups. And within the groups, you have individual pages. Some people also call them as modules. Some people also call them as modules. And within the module you have, work areas. Okay. Now, when a user logs in, what they get to see within the application, is basically controlled by the roles assigned to that particular user. See, I logged in as finance implementation user, right? I'm seeing so many work areas here. So let me do it this way. I'll go ahead and log into Fusion Cloud application. I'm going to log into Fusion Cloud application as a different user from this browser. Okay, let me log in as a specific user here. And let me get the password of the user. I don't want to expose it in a session. And when I log in as Sueden here, what is it that I'm able to see here? I'm able to see only 5 work areas. When I log in as Sueden, I'm able to see only 5 work areas. But when I log in as finance implementation user, I'm able to see a lot of work areas here. So when a user logs in, what options do they get to see in the application here? Would be dependent what options they get to see within the Fusion Cloud application and what actions can they perform. So what they get to see and what actions can they perform is controlled by the roles assigned to the user, Remember guys, these users the finance implementation user, or a SUEDN. These are basically configured as users in Fusion Cloud in one particular screen, and we'll be focusing on it in detail tomorrow. So when you go to Tools, Security Console, in this particular screen, you can search for the users, and this is where you define the users. We'll talk about the screen in quite detail tomorrow. So when you search for a specific user like FinIMPL, you would be able to see that this particular user has a lot of roles assigned. This particular user has a lot of roles assigned to the user. So since this user has got all the finance related roles assigned, when that user logs in, he's able to see all the work areas. But if you search for a user like SUEDN, what do you see here? To this particular user, there's only one role that is assigned called employee. And that's precisely why when SUEDN logs into the application, she is only able to see the screens that she should have access to as an employee. She only has screens to access her personal information, submit an absence, see the pay slips, etc. Okay. So in Fusion Cloud, security works on the basis of roles assigned to the user. So the roles assigned to the user would basically control what they get to see in the application and what actions they can perform. And since it is a role-based access control that works in Fusion Cloud, it is called as RBAC, role-based access control. And this is one of the most important concepts that you need to know, guys, as a technical consultant, because usually setting up a security framework, this responsibility will be given to one of the technical consultant in the project, usually the experienced folks. Okay. And what is it that you would be doing if you are identified as a person to set up a security in a project? You would be talking to a client, understand what different types of employees they have, and you need to design a framework for them. So what exactly does this role-based access control means? So it basically controls three things, guys. It controls who can do what on a which set of data. So the roles that we assign to the user can control three things: who, what, and which set of data. So what should employee be able to see, guys? They should be able to log in and see their pay slips. And of course, should they be able to see only their pay slips or their colleagues' pay slips as well? Of course, only their pay slips, right? And that is exactly what you see here. So when I log in as Stu here, I'm able to see my pay slips here, but I cannot see what my colleague is earning, even though I'm interested in it. And if you take a case of line manager, say for example, a line manager logs into the application, not employee. So that line manager should be, what he should be able to do, he should be able to give a hike, not only, and to whom he should be able to give a hike, he should be able to give a hike to the employees or workers in his hierarchy or in their hierarchy. So if I have 10 employees reporting to me as a line manager, I should be able to give a hike to only those 10 employees, not to all the 50,000 employees we have in a company. And if you have a HR specialist, okay, a different party here, and what should HR specialist be able to do? He or she should be able to transfer employees. And since it's a HR specialist North America region, this particular person should be able to transfer employees only in North America, only in US and Canada, not in India or UK. So in short, security is controlled with the help of roles that are assigned to the user. Starting tomorrow, we will be spending almost 3 hours, guys. We'll be spending 3 complete 1-hour sessions discussing security in depth, because there are a lot of things that you need to know. But for now, all you need to remember is security is controlled by roles in Fusion Cloud. It's a role-based access control that works. And security controls three things. It controls who can do what on which set of data. Okay. And in case of roles, again, you don't have just one type of a role. You have different types of roles. You have job roles, duty roles, data roles, abstract roles, and you have privileges. We'll be talking about each of these options in detail in a couple of days. Okay. And what else would you be doing? So we have seen four things so far: inbound integrations, outbound integrations, reporting options, and security. Now, another thing that you might be working on is setting up a workflow approval rules and notifications. Whatever action that you perform in Fusion Cloud, guys, whatever action you perform in Fusion Cloud, whether it is creating an invoice and submitting it, or whether it is creating a journal and posting it, or whether it is hiring an employee in the application, doesn't matter what action are you performing in finance, HCM or HCM. A lot of business objects have approvals in the background already configured by Oracle. So say if you take the case of hire an employee, when an employee is hired, so when a HR specialist hires an employee, what should happen? That employee should not be loaded into the base tables immediately. That transaction should not be approved immediately. First, it should go to line manager for approval, meaning whoever is the line manager of that HR specialist. And after line manager approves it, it might have to go to a second level manager, meaning a manager of line manager. And then it has to go to payroll manager, third level approval. And after payroll manager approves it, so these three are the approvers. They basically have to approve it. And after all three approvers approve it, we might have to send a kind of a for your information notification to a recruiter saying that so and so employee has been hired. So where do you plug in all these rules? First of all, who is going to write all these rules? Like when an employee is hired, this should be the flow. Or when a journal is posted or AR invoice is created, it should go to 2 or 3 layers of approval. Where do you write all of this? If you go into Fusion Cloud application, remember guys, I'm just trying to give you a very high level overview of each of these topics. We'll be spending 2 to 3 hours on each of these topics later on in the sessions, getting into the granular details. Okay, so you go into tools and you have something called as transaction console here. And when you go in here in the transaction console, you go into approval rules. Here you will be able to see all the processes. So you can search for something like hire an employee, or you also have an approval process for invoice. You have an approval process for journal. So you name a business object, you name a business object. You have a process approval process given by Oracle for it. And say, for example, if you take this particular use case when employee is hired, client has told me that this is a setup that we have to do. These are the rules that we need to write as a technical consultant. So what do? We come into transaction manager and we search for hire an employee process. And the first step that you decide is whether the approval should be bypassed or not. And if it is bypassed, what does it mean? It means that if you hire an employee in the system today, it would be saved automatically. It doesn't go for approvals. But if you enable approvals, if you want to enable it, how do you do it? You just have to uncheck it. And if you uncheck it, approvals will be enabled. And if you tick it, it would be bypassed. And you're going to configure rules. And this is where you would be writing all the rules that you need. And we'll spend almost 2 hour session on this particular topic. And I'll show you various ways to write the rules here. Okay, so you see here, you can write the conditions. So if the department of the employee, if employee is hired in, say, a department in a specific department. So you go in here. Sorry. I think it's opening up at the bottom. Let me just reduce the zoom size a little bit so that you can see it. Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit here, so you see here, the moment you check this condition, you can write if then else conditions. If a specific condition is true, meaning if the department is so and so, then you send it to a management hierarchy. And how many levels of management hierarchy is mentioned? 2 levels. What does it mean? It means that if I hire an employee in a sales department, US West department, then it would go to 2 levels of managers, because I said management hierarchy, 2 levels. And then I said send a notification. Then I said send a approval requirement for a HR representative as well. So to keep it simple, these are all the approvers that we can use in the rules, and I can write complex if else conditions here. if a condition, and in the condition, you have only one condition here, but you can write any number of conditions you want using logical operators. And when those conditions are met, you can send the request for approval to any combination of these approvers. Okay, so we'll talk more about it when we do the approvals. And remember, guys, workflow approvals in Fusion Cloud is supported by BPM engine in the background. Business process management engine is working in the background to make these approvals work. But please note, guys, if you're coming in with EBS background, if you have probably worked on workflows earlier, what you might have probably done, if you don't like or if your client doesn't like the PO workflow or AP invoice workflow, you pull out that workflow from EBS, do the customizations, and you put it back into the application, into EBS application. So you had the privilege to customize the approval processes the way you want in EBS. But please note that you cannot do any such thing in Fusion Cloud. You cannot pull out the workflow approval out of Fusion Cloud, make changes and put it back. But the only thing that you can do is you can write the rules. You can write the rules for a given business process. You can write the rules for a given business process to determine which transaction has to go through how many levels of approval. Okay. And yeah, so these are the technical components that you would be working on: inbound, outbound integrations, reporting options, customizing Fusion applications, setting up security, configuring the workflow approvals. And yes, well, and what exactly? Yeah, just a quick overview of the course, guys. So we would, I mean, it's basically a Monday to a Friday 1 hour training session we will be doing. 7 to 8 would be the batch time. All the training sessions will happen over Zoom. We record them and give you lifetime access to them. So we give you 3 months of instance access. Whatever application that I'm going to use in the session will give you access to that application for 3 months time so that you can practice whatever we cover in the sessions. And what are the exact topics we cover as part of the course, guys? What are the exact topics we cover as part of the course? If you go to Fusion Technical Training, you have an option to download the full syllabus from there. So we have designed this Fusion Cloud technical course in such a way that it covers all the technical skills that you have in cloud. Remember, guys, there are 20 plus tech skills in Fusion Cloud. Some of those technical skills, you can call them as core skills, which apply for all the modules like finance, HCM, and HCM. At the same time, you have some offering specific skills. So we have designed this course content in such a way that it covers all the 20 plus tech skills that you would have, that you have in Fusion Cloud application. Like how exactly we are going to proceed with the course. We're going to get started with navigation in the application in 5 minutes from now, because I want to make all of you comfortable in the Fusion Cloud application, because 90% of you might be looking at that application for the first time. So you need to understand how to use the application first. Forget about building the technical components. So we'll cover the navigation part, and there's also something called as FSM. We'll cover that. And then we start setting up security in Fusion Cloud application. So how are we going to cover this? We would be doing a hands-on exercise. I'll show you how to create the users in Fusion Cloud first. We keep assigning roles to it, and we see how user is getting access to additional screens as we add roles to the user. So we would do a detailed hands-on sessions for 2 to 3 hours to master security. And once we get a comfort level with that, we go ahead and build the reporting options. So we cover BIP, OTBI, FRS reports, and we cover the 4 data loader options that we have: FPDA, HDL, SDL. And you also have some HCM specific technical skills. You also have some HCM specific technical skills like HCM extracts, fast formulas, approvals, etc. So we'll be covering all of them. Approvals is not HCM specific. It is applicable for invoices or finance as well, finance and SCM. And we would also be understanding covering how to customize the user interface with the help of Sandbox. And we do the outbound integrations again with BIP, extracts, and the web services. Remember, guys, we will be spending a couple of hours on the web services as well, because I want to help you guys understand that if you want to either load the data or extract the data, apart from the usual loader and the extraction options, we can make use of standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle. So those two 1 hour sessions would help you or give you a good understanding of how to use these services. Because usually what happens is sometimes when you do a data upload, sometimes you might get a wrong file from client, or you might extract wrong data from source system and you might load it in. And you need to correct that data because that data is already loaded in cloud. And of course, if you have loaded 10,000 journals, you cannot go to each one of them and correct it. Right? In such cases, what do? You quickly check if there is a SOAP service or a REST API that you have, which you can use to update the journal. You call them and update the transactions or the wrong data that is loaded. So that is one way we normally use SOAP and REST APIs as a technical consultant. Integration specialists use it for a completely different reason. And these are 20 plus tech skills. So by the time we reach this stage, you would have got a pretty good understanding of how the technical skills work. And to help you understand how the major business cycles work in the application, we will be covering order to cash, procure to pay, and global HR cycles within the application. So these three are the major business flows that you have in cloud. We'll be covering all these three flows within the application so that you get a good understanding of how the business processes work. And yeah, this is a generic point that we have, guys. We don't have any certification exam for Fusion Technical as such, but we would be providing a job assistance at the end of the course. So it's going to be 2-month long training, 1 hour session per day, Monday to Friday, 7 to 8, 3 months of instance access you would get. Now let's get started with the navigation part. Let's get started with the navigation part first of all. So when you log into Fusion Cloud application, so first of all, I'll be giving you access to the Fusion Cloud instance. Okay, I'll be giving you access to the Fusion Cloud instance. So most of you have already received onboarding email. So if you have already received it, we have created a Google Drive sheet. And in that Google Drive sheet, we maintain these Fusion Cloud instances. Go to that Google Drive sheet, pick up the instance URL, username, and password, and try to sign in. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at it from the sign in page. So the moment you sign into an application, yes, you access a URL, you see a sign in page, enter a username and password and signing in. And what are we trying to access? We're trying to access a Fusion application installed in cloud, meaning it is running in one of the data centers of Oracle. It's a SaaS product. I'm just using the software as a service, as an end client. And at the end of the month, I would be paying a bill to Oracle for using this application. Now, let me make you comfortable with the home page and with the options that you see. The first and the foremost part is as soon as you log into the application, you see a home page layout. You see this layout, the box that I'm circling. This is called as a home page layout. Okay. And what is the default home page layout, guys? There is a page layout attached to a home page. There is a layout attached to a home page. And what is this default home page layout that you're seeing on screen? It is called as a newsfeed homepage layout. Okay, and this newsfeed homepage layout is going to look something like this, wherein if you scroll to the right, you will be able to see groups. So these are called as groups. Since I logged in as finance implementation user, I'll be able to see finance related groups. And within the group, you will be able to see the individual pages. So for example, if I see receivables, I see pages to create a transaction, manage transaction, manage customer, etc. And if I go into general accounting group, I'll be able to see journal related pages. So one way to call them as groups, and within the groups, you have individual pages. And some clients also, or we also, another way to refer to them is, we can also call them as modules, and within the modules, you call them as work areas. Okay, so you can either call them as groups or modules, and you can call these as pages or work areas. Okay, now when a user logs in, As I've just explained few moments back, when a user logs in, what groups they get to see here is again controlled by the roles assigned to the user. That's a separate story altogether, and we'll talk about it in detail in tomorrow's session. So you have groups and you have pages. And whatever options that you see here, these same options are also visible in the navigator. So you see a burger icon here on the right corner. When you click on that burger icon, you will be able to see whatever navigation options we see here, the same navigation options you will be seeing here as well. So you see sales here, sales, Redwood, sales, service, me, procurement, you see the same groups here. And again, within the groups also, you see the same work areas. Whatever you see in the homepage layout, you see the same options in the navigator as well. So it's just whatever options you see in the homepage, you see those same options in the navigator. It is just two different ways for you or for the end user to get down to the work area they want. Okay. And apart from that, we also have an option to search for people or actions here. Sometimes what might happen is it might get really tough, or the number of mouse clicks required to reach a specific page can be higher. Say, for example, if I want to run a job in Fusion Cloud, I will talk about what exactly a job is at a later point. But say, for example, if I want to run a job, I have to scroll to the right 3 or 4 times, and I'll be able to see tools group. And after I see the tools group, I scroll down, and here I see an option to run a schedule process from here. From here, we see an option to run a job or schedule a process from here. So if I want to submit a job in Fusion Cloud, what exactly a job is, we'll talk about it at a later point. It's nothing but a technical job or an ESS job. So if I have to run a job, how many mouse clicks were required? Almost like 6 to 7 mouse clicks. So I have to click on this I have to click on this arrow mark 5 times, go to tools, click on schedule process. That would take me to a page. And from this page, I can search for a new job and I can submit it. But what if I don't want to waste that much time to get down to that page? What I can do is I can quickly search for that particular task here. So I can go in here and I can search for schedule processes. Now, when you search for a process here, you should be able to see that process showing up directly here. You don't even have to type in the full name. It does a partial search as well. So when you search for a task name, it would immediately show up here. And the moment I click on it, it would take me to that page directly. So this quick search box, guys, it comes quite handy. Remember, when you look at the application, you should always be looking at the application as an end user, guys. End user in the sense, when it comes to user interface, Oracle has designed the user interface in such a way that it makes the life of end users easy. Because please remember one point, guys, Prasad or any Fusion technical consultant, we will be in the project only when the project is going on. And once the product is implemented, once Fusion Cloud Application product is implemented as per the client requirements, once the client goes live with Fusion Cloud, who is going to use that product? Is it going to be Prasad or a Fusion technical team? Not really, right? It would be the actual end users of the client who would be using the application. So the options that you see in the application here is given to make the life of an end user easy. So if a manager or if a HR user or any person logs into the application, if they have to submit a job, this is how they can do it. And when you are in an application, let's say you go into a specific page, and you want to come back to a home page. How do you come back to a home page from any other page that you are in? You have an option to click on the home button here. And the moment you click on a home button, you are back in the home page. And we do have this star icon, and this comes quite handy, guys. You have an option to mark some of the pages as favorites. So as an end user, say, for example, if I'm a HR analyst and if I perform, say, or if I access 3 or 4 pages quite frequently, or assume that I'm a general accountant and I go to journal screen quite frequently, what do I need to do in such case? I'm a general accountant and I need to access general accounting screen quite frequently. I should create a journal at least 10 or 15 times in a day. Now, when I log in, this is what I get to see. And how do I go to the journals work area? I need to click on this arrow mark 3 or 4 times, go to general accounting, and create a journal from here. But is there any shortcut that you know already? What is a shortcut that you know already? You can go in here and you can type in create journal. This is one thing that you already know. What would happen when you type in create journal or when you type in journals? You should be able to see journal related action showing up here. You should be able to see journal showing up here. I can click on it, go to that particular page and create a journal. So instead of using a navigator, I can search for it. This is a second option. And the third option is I don't even have to search for it here. If there is some page that I want to access quite frequently, what I can do is I can add that to the favorites. So how do I do it as an end user? I go into general accounting. I go to say create journal. And if this is a page that I use quite frequently, once we are in that page, Fusion Cloud application gives user an access to add that particular page to the favorites. And when they add it to a favorite, what would happen? You can put them directly into the favorites, or you can create a new folder and have a separate folders as well. So I just click on save and close. What would happen? You should be able to see create journals shortcut added as a favorite. Now what I do from second time onwards, or from the next time onwards, when I want to go to create journal, when I need to create a journal, I just click on this. Sorry, I click on this. And I click on create journal, that would take me to the page directly. So it's like bookmarking the work areas that I need to access quite frequently in the application. Okay. And we also have an option to quickly access the pages that we have visited recently. We also have an option to access the pages that we have visited recently. And when would this come handy, guys? Very often you notice that you might probably want to do some action. And when you're trying to do something, maybe you're trying to create an invoice, and then you realize that the customer is not created first. Then what do? You come out of the create invoice screen, you go to create customer screen, create an invoice, create a customer there. And after you create a customer, now you want to go back to create invoice screen again. In such case, what I can do, I can just go into recent items and it would show me all the pages that I have visited recently. Are these the pages that we visited recently, guys? Yes or no? We went to create journal, roles, processes, approval rules. So these are all the pages that we visited recently. So this would come quite handy, guys, the favorites and recent items. And the reason why this come handy is if you are coming in with EBS background, please note this, you don't have those shortcuts here. So if you want to submit a job, you say Control FVR, right? So you have those shortcuts that you use in forms, EBS forms, to navigate around quickly in the application. We don't have any such shortcuts in Fusion Cloud, guys. It is a web user interface that you have here. You don't have any such shortcuts, and that is where these options come handy. And you go into the watch list here, and this watch list, this is typically, or this is meant for finance users especially. And when they go into a watch list here, they'll be able to see all the finance related work areas. Say, for example, they can quickly see how many invoices are on hold, how many journals are in error, and so on. So if you are a finance user and if you want to get a quick snapshot of how your finance modules are doing, is there anything that you have to work upon, or is there anything that you have to pay attention to, you will be able to see them here. And when you go into, yes, Andy, please go on.
Regarding the watch list, is it customizable?
No.
Okay.
What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get, and you don't have anything related to HCM or SCM here. This watch list is given only for finance modules.
Thank you.
And when you go into the notification here, this is where you will be able to see all the approval related notifications. Remember, if I'm an approver for a specific transaction, then I'll be able to see those transactions here as well. It says, hey, Prasad, so-and-so, a request is pending for your approval. And here I see dismiss, right? Because I see dismiss because it is a FII notification. I don't need to act on this. So that's why I see only dismiss button. But if some request is pending on your name for approval, you would see approve and reject as well. And when you click on it, you will be able to see the details as well. So when we do the workflow approvals, when we do the workflow approval session, we would be covering this notifications part in quite detail. And we do have a username showing up at the right here, right corner. And the last option that you see within that is about this application. Now, when you click on about this application, what do we see, guys? Well, somebody might ask you if you say that, hey, I'm learning Fusion technical course, the first question they might ask you is, what version of the application are you learning? Right? So what is the version that we're going to cover as part of the sessions, guys? It is a release 13. It is a Fusion application, a release 13 that we are going to use. It is release 13. And it has been release 13 for a few years now. And what Oracle does is, Oracle upgrades the Fusion Cloud application. Oracle upgrades Fusion Cloud application. Let me use an Excel, it'll be easy. Oracle upgrades a Fusion Cloud application. Oracle upgrades a Fusion Cloud application every quarter. Every quarter you get a new Fusion Cloud upgrade. Okay, so first of all, what is it? What is the release that we are using? We are using a release 13. And every quarter we get a new upgrade from Oracle Cloud. From Oracle, you get a new Fusion Cloud upgrade every quarter. And let me put down a year here, 2024, 2025. And how many quarters do we have in a year, guys? Jan to March, April to June, July to September, October to December. So these are the 4 quarters that we have, right? So every year you have these 4 quarters. And the way a version would be released, so really it would be release 13. And what is the version that we are using? We are looking at 24D. Remember, guys, every quarter you get a new version from Oracle. And what is that called as? You would have last 2 digits in the year. You would have last 2 digits in the year, 2024, you have 24. And if it is a release that you have got in a first quarter, it would be called as 24A. And the version that you get in second quarter would be called as 24B, and it would be 24C and 24D. So what are we looking at? We are looking at a Fusion Cloud application that is released by Oracle in the last quarter of 2024. And in the next 1 week or couple of weeks, what is it that you would be seeing, guys? The same application, the application that we would be using in a session would be automatically upgraded. And you would be able to see that the version number in couple of weeks would be changing to 25. What would be the version number, guys, that we get in the first quarter of January, first quarter of 2025? It would be 25A. So very soon, you're going to see this particular version number changing to 25A. So Oracle has a quarterly upgrade policy. Oracle has a quarterly upgrade policy. Oracle has a quarterly upgrade policy. And every quarter, whether you like it or not, Oracle will automatically upgrade the Fusion Cloud application used by clients to the latest release. Remember, guys, in EBS, clients had a say. And if I'm a client, I had an option to choose to stay in the current version for maybe a year or a couple of years if I like, because everything is stabilized. I don't want to take a risk, because the moment you upgrade, we never know what issues would come up. So clients used to be very conservative and they used to stay in the same release for a year or a couple of years. Please notice in Fusion Cloud, clients do not have any such privileges. Whether you like it or not, as a client, I am going to upgrade your application every quarter to a new version. Yes, what we give you as an option is you pick and choose a slot where you want to or when you want the application to be upgraded. If you have some milestone or if you have some important maybe a goal is pending in Fusion Cloud application on a particular date, You can, as a client, you can postpone the upgrade of Fusion Cloud application maybe by a couple of weeks or maximum by 2 or 3 months. But please note that you cannot delay it beyond that. Okay. So if somebody says, what application are you learning? It's released 13 of Fusion Cloud and we are using 24D at the moment and it would be upgraded to 25A. And if you want to see the documentation related to Fusion Cloud, you have applications help. And when you click on this, it opens up. When you click on this, it opens up a new tab. And this is a link where you can access all the documentation related to Oracle Fusion Cloud application. Okay, so this is a standard documentation given by Oracle. And for every module, you would be able to see the documentation, whether it is financials, HCM, SCM, you have a detailed documentation. And if you go into financials as an example, you would again have an option to see the documentation either as an end user or as an implementation consultant, meaning we, or as an administrator. Okay, so you have an option to easily access the documentation as well. And this administration part, will be covering it when we do the functional setup manager session. We'll be focusing on this. And we do have an option as an end user, we have an option to set some preferences if you want. Say, for example, you're going to set preferences. I can change the date format, or I can change the language. I can reset my password. There are a few common things or few preferences that I can change as an end user. Okay, so this is on a very high level. This is a navigation that you need to be aware of. And remember, guys, one important screen that you need to be aware of is if you click on this username, and under administration, you see something called as setup and maintenance. Under administration, you see setup and maintenance. And when you click on that, it would take the user to a screen called functional setup manager screen. So what is the screen called as, guys? Functional setup manager. And it is called as FSM. Why is it called as FSM, guys? Because this particular screen is used by functional consultants to manage the setups. So it is one single screen. So it doesn't matter whether you are a finance consultant or HCM consultant or SCM consultant, all of them would be coming into this particular screen. And setups or configurations within the application have to be performed from this screen. So for example, if a client implements financials, functional team will come into this particular screen. They will be doing all the finance related setups from here. And after the functional configurations are done, we will hand over the system to the, and as a technical consultant, we will be doing the RISE components. We will be loading the data, extracting the data, building our reports, and so on. And after the setups and the technical RISE component build is done, we will hand over the system to the client. And what client would do when they log in, when the end users on the client side would log in. So for example, if a receivables user logs in, they go into receivables here from the screen and they try to create a transaction, and they would be able to see all the receivable setups that you have done. They would be able to see your business units that you have configured. They see the transaction sources, types, and so on. And they would be able to see the customers that a functional consultant has loaded. So what you see on the homepage is basically the screens. What you see on the homepage is basically the screens to perform the transactions. And this is what used by the end user. But for end user to be able to use these screens, before they can use these screens, functional consultant will have to go into this particular screen, do the setups. And as a technical consultant, we would also have to do the RISE component build. Okay, we'll stop here for today and we'll get started with security setups from tomorrow. We'll get started with security setups from tomorrow. 2 minutes, Andy. I'll open it up for questions. 2 minutes. With today's session, we are done with the free demo sessions, guys. First 2 demo sessions are for free. After the session today, we are going to enable a passcode on the Zoom meeting. Most of you have already paid the fees and enrolled in the course as well. And we did send out onboarding emails. This is for those 3 or 4 folks who have not yet enrolled in a course. If you want to continue further, do send us a WhatsApp message on this number. Team will let you know the enrollment process. Please do complete the enrollment process by tomorrow evening before the session starts, because passcode would be enabled on a session. And tomorrow, when you try to join the same Zoom meeting link using the same, at the same time, you would be prompted to enter a passcode. Okay. If you like the way we are doing the sessions, So the approach is not going to change. I would be doing the sessions exactly the same way for the next 2 months, covering the topics that we have published in a schedule. Please do complete the enrollment process by tomorrow EOD or before the session starts. Yes, Andy, please go on with your question.
Hi. As you notice, I probably didn't. I missed about 40 minutes of the class today. So
you can
what
check
is
the recording and let me know if you have any questions in the tomorrow session. Okay.
No. So will the recording be uploaded somewhere?
Yes. You would have received an onboarding email. Check out that email, and in that email, you have one link to access the recordings. I would upload the session recording to that Google Drive folder in a couple of hours. Check out the recording. Let me know if you have any questions in tomorrow's session.
Okay. One second. Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, Prasad, on which module you are going to focus deeply?
We cover everything. We cover finance, HCM, and HCM. Nothing like a deep and nothing like a light there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Every technical skill in cloud would be covered.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys, from anyone?
Downside of are there any downsides of using Fusion against EBS? General question.
There are a lot of downsides. You don't, as a technical consultant, you don't get access to anything. If it is EBS, you get access to file server, application server, database server. I can make the application the way clients want it. Unfortunately, we cannot do even 10% of what you do in EBS. But this is a new world, and that was my same reaction when I heard this in 2016 when I started working in Fusion Cloud. But very soon you will get used to it. You will get used to the new way of building RISE components.
Okay. But there is provision for us to build RISE components.
Yes, of course. Yes. Okay. But you do it in a completely different fashion.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone?
Just like we use PL/SQL in mostly in Oracle EBS, do we have any language here for?
We don't have any. We normally use only SQL. We don't even need PL/SQL in Oracle in Fusion Cloud. Okay. Yes, Ashok.
Hey, do we get to have any assessments like that?
So when we do these technical components, right? So the inbound integrations, outbound integrations, I'll be taking a use case showing you how to do those data loaders or reports, etc. Expectation is you practice those use cases as is at the end of the session. And if you want to try out some additional use cases, I'll tell you what other use cases you can try. And yes, if you get stuck anywhere, you can. I'm going to clarify those questions in the next day session.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And
thanks,
what
everyone.
about OIS, Oracle Integration Cloud?
It is a different training course altogether. We have, and that course focuses on covering 3 cloud services we have in OIC. It has got nothing to do with Fusion Cloud Technical. Cloud Technical course, we focus on building the RISE components. Oracle Integration Cloud, we would focus on how to build integrations, VPCS and PCS applications. And that's a separate area altogether, and that needs around 55 hours of delivery to master OIC.
So what is the role? Who will be working on Oracle Integration Cloud?
It would be technical folks again. It is also, OIC is also part of a technical team, but you have core Fusion technical team which takes care of building the RISE components, and you have integrations team that would be working on the integrations, custom web applications, and approval process that are required by those custom applications. You have 2 different teams: Fusion technical team and integration specialist team working alongside in a project in the technical stream.
These 2 technical teams is very common in every project.
Yes.
Okay,
any other questions, guys? Yes, Ashok. I hope your question is already answered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow, same time, same Zoom link. It's just that you would be prompted to enter a passcode. Please do complete the enrollment process so that you can continue further. Thank you.